Hi everyone, welcome back. So I'm not in my normal location. I'm actually out of state right now, hanging out with my husband. If you guys have watched any of my other videos, you know that he's working a contract job in Dallas right now. So I'm flying back and forth periodically, and I have Emma with me. So if you hear any barking in the background, I'll obviously try and cut it out because you'll want to hear what I'm saying. But if you do, that would be her. And there's no telling how long she'll stay quiet. So, and I managed to get Gary to leave the 3D printer off today so I can make a video for you. So what I wanted to do is kind of give you an update as far as where I am, and also a little peek at where I'm going, I think, with my planner. So I'm still in this very chunky, and I think I've shown this to you before. It is a regular size traveler's notebook. This is a Foxy Fix Madison, the Boss Babe leather. So it's kind of a thicker, not very floppy leather, and I actually really like it. I bought a couple of standard Nomad Touch Me's from Vanderspec, but I have not been able to bring myself to come out of this. And I don't know that it can handle this many inserts. We shall see. But for right now, I'm just staying in this one because this has been withstanding getting beat up quite a bit. So just to kind of walk you through where I am. In the front here, I just have a couple business cards and some deco stuff. If you've been watching any of my videos for any length of time, you know I'm not a super decorative planner necessarily. Function is where it is for me. So I'm going to touch base on this book in a moment when that usually comes into play. So this first section here is my month at a glance section. So this is just kind of what's going on in my life in generalities. Stuff highlighted for when people are in town, out of town, visiting, that sort of thing. So I generally don't do any sort of decorating until that month, and then it's usually just with the Cocoa Daisy kit. So that's my month at a glance. I just have random bits and pieces stuck in here. My next section, in case you're curious, this is from Paper and Cats on Etsy, as is my next section, which is a monthly tracker. And in this one, I track things on days of the month, and I just keep notes here if I'm in town, out of town, or large projects that are happening, large events that are happening. I have my weekly chores and to-dos here. This is based off of the Clean Mama system. Same thing with the monthly items. Here I have projects. Usually the focus is whatever the Clean Mama Homekeeping Society kit, whatever her focus is. In August it's closets. I'm not home much during August. Thankfully my closet is not that bad. And then just kind of whatever major project I have going on at work. So the last 3 or 4 months it's been lease renewals, and the September ones are kind of the last major push, which I'm excited about. And then just some details on the closet focus here. So this is what a blank one looks like, in case you're curious. Anyway, moving on. The next section I have is meal planning, another Paper and Cats insert. And right now I am using AAY Nutrition. They have a Trader Joe's meal plan that I'm following, which is nice because everything is made for 1 or 2 servings, and it's usually just me at home, so I don't have to worry about trying to do a ton of math and dividing 4 and 6 serving recipes into 1 and 2, and I also don't have to eat the same thing all week long, so I'm really enjoying that. So that's where most of this information comes from. I'm a little light this week on what I'm doing, but normally it looks more like this, where I have a shopping list here. At times in the past I filled out some meal prep stuff. I don't think I have any that are filled out, but so anyway, that's what I'm doing for meal planning. And again, a blank one looks like this: spot for dinner, breakfast, lunch, snacks, meal prep list, notes, and a space for shopping list. I do like that this is broken down by area, makes stuff easier to find. All right, next up is my Clean Mama Homekeeping and Cleaning Kit, and this is something that I purchased as a printable from her website, and then I modified it to fit this book. So a couple people have asked me about it. I don't sell these because it's not my property. I just did it so that I would have it with me. But if you're interested, you can go to her website and get the information on where to find this. So that is that book. Next up is my reference and routine section, and I do have a generic version of this available on my Etsy store. It doesn't have all of this, but it does have the routines and things in it. So I have my goals here in the front, a vision board, and then the actual goals for the year down here at the bottom, just because that way I don't have to keep pulling out my power sheets to find them. My master task list, which is basically things that recur not as often as I would remember to put them on my list. So when I'm trying to figure out what I need to be doing, I can refer to this. I have my weekly routine. And I did have somebody that mentioned when I first went through this that my home routine seemed very long and everything was clustered on like 1 or 2 days. This is actually what it looks like. My Tuesdays and Thursdays have a lot of recurring tasks in them, so you'll see that they're just as long. Mondays and Fridays I reserve for goals and projects. Friday is also meeting day for me usually. So those, I don't have anything that I do often that's recurring. It's kind of a catch up, but most of the time I'm trying to move big stuff forward. So home and work daily routines, obviously these are ideal situations. They don't always happen. And then I get into my annual review, quarterly, monthly, daily, and weekly review stuff. And again, this is information that's available as a part of that. So I'm not going to flip through the other pages necessarily, but I have a budget section. I have phone numbers that I've put in here for people at the office. And then I have the rule of life that I developed as a part of my Daughters of the King study. So basically how I like to live my life. So there's that. So the next section is from Cocoa Daisy. It's their monthly traveler's notebook. So I have this broken up. So I have the month at a glance section here, which essentially is all of these weekly pages. I went ahead and just went through and numbered them ahead of time. This is kind of where I do my dividing out of tasks and things like that. And then I have a notes section where I'm just keeping random notes. In the middle, I have my August goals. So these are ones I've pulled out of my power sheets. So again, I don't have to keep pulling out my power sheets to remember what I'm trying to do. And I have another few pages for notes. And then back here, I don't remember, I actually don't know that I decided what I was going to do with this. I went ahead and just used up the stickers to date the pages, but I thought about doing some sort of, oh, I know what I was going to do, was journaling back here. But I've actually, and I'll have to go grab this so I can show it to you. I actually got an Erin Condren petite planner that I am using for like a self-care journal, because that gives me a little more room. So I'll go grab that in a little bit so I can show it to you. All right, so there's that. I have also, these are available on my Etsy store, travel plans notebooks, which I'm not going to show you everything because it has some of my travel information, but I have a pre-trip checklist, and then I have a couple of pages where I can make notes, some like daily information. So like when I was doing a conference or something, I could make notes about what all I was doing. There's a spot for weather, where you'll be staying, expenses, what types of outfits you'll need. And then I have a pre-trip and a post-trip checklist of things that I need to do. And then there's a spot for expenses. So usually when I'm traveling, I have one of those put together just so I have all the information that I need. So as far as how I'm tracking my to-do list, I think I mentioned on my Instagram page that I went back to doing a paper, like general to-do list. Now, if you've heard of Productive Flourishing, that's the website that has the Momentum Planner on it, which I have started using. Again, I'll have to go through that in a different video. I think that'll be out in the middle of September. But he calls it an idea garden. So essentially it's like a combination of, for me anyway, a to-do list where I keep all the stuff that isn't immediately pressing. And it's also a place where I do my project tracking, whether it's current projects or not. So I am using just a basic dot grid journal in here. And so I have index pages, and then each page has its own topic. And then I switched to doing it across spreads when I figured I would have enough. So like I've started something for Christmas, especially because Christmas is going to be a little different this year, because I won't have Gary flying back until right before Christmas. So anything that I do, I'll have to do mostly myself. So I have enough room to do you know, a lot of project planning in here. Then I have a spread for home to-dos, and then I have a spread for work to-dos. And that's the last thing that's in here, and that gives me plenty of room to move forward with everything I have to do for work. So ignore the horrible trimming work here. I need to get a new rotary trimmer for my, a rotary blade for my trimmer. This last section here, I started out, this is also from Cocoa Daisy. They have a simple dory, which is basically very simply decorated with lots of room. So they intend to use it for like a journal or something. I put a summer bucket list here in the front, and then I've just been using it kind of as a notebook. So self-care ideas, because I'm trying to do kind of like an August semi-sabbatical while I'm traveling so much. So I'm taking advantage of kind of hanging out a little bit by myself, being out of town, and using it as like a little mini vacation. And then I have some notes from a book, and then this is a sneak peek of what is coming. If you've been on my Instagram page at all, this will probably look familiar. But I am going to do something different with my daily pages. And in the back here, I just have a 5-year planner where I can just make notes of long-term things that are coming up. So I'll be right back. Let me go grab a couple of books really quick. Okay, so before I get too far into what I'm doing next, potentially, let me go back to this little booklet here. So kind of how my weekly planning works is that on a weekly basis, I'm kind of planning ahead here. So this is just my weekly overview as far as appointments I have going on and general like to-dos that need to be done on a certain day. And then from there, I've been using this as a bullet journal. So I had an actual kind of bullet journal style, kind of a quick overview of August, the tasks. I have notes about who's traveling when, and then I just have daily pages in here, interspersed with notes for things that I need from, you know, meetings I've been to and stuff. So this is kind of where I left off, and it starts to look a little different here for a reason, and that's because I started reading a couple of books. And these are on my Instagram page too, if you want to get a little more information. So there's Time Management, which I think it's a little hard to see. Time Power, which I'm in the middle of right now. And then Advanced Day Planner User's Guide. So Antonisha Lachey is the one who had posted about these. And I know she's very heavily into Franklin Covey and their method of planning. And so these are all based on that information. So as I'm reading through this, granted, going back just a second, I've done a lot of my time management organization stuff has been very heavily influenced by David Allen's Getting Things Done. So he's kind of a little more loose than these books are, as far as not planning super far ahead and kind of, you know, making decisions about things on the fly and trusting your gut, that sort of thing. So I've been influenced mostly by that, but I actually have been able to see the value in, you know, prioritizing what you're doing ahead of time and keeping track of things. So I think what is going to end up happening is I'm going to be using a combination of kind of the Getting Things Done method, the Franklin Covey-ish sort of method, and then also bullet journaling too. So mashing up everything I've learned, and speaking of mashups, I basically created my own mashup of kind of the Franklin Covey 2-page per day layout with a traveler's notebook, because I do not want to give up my traveler's notebook. I really am enjoying that right now. So these are kind of my first draft, roughly playing with it sort of inserts. Obviously, this whole section here needs to be redone. I want to line these two numbers up. I need to make these fonts bigger. The resolution on these little mini calendars, which I'm having to insert as images, is atrocious. And so I figured out how I need to do that. I just need to go back and do it. But I don't want to reprint these again because I've already did it once, because thankfully somebody messaged me on Instagram, was like, hey, did you know this is misspelled? And I was like, oh, I missed that, because the margin line went straight through the word and I couldn't really tell. So anyway, I did get that fixed at least, so that wouldn't drive me nuts for an entire month. But this is kind of what they look like. So there's a daily task list here, which they suggest, you know, work from the top, personal from the bottom, which is funny because I didn't know necessarily where that came from, and I'd heard it from Emily Lay when she did her simplified planner kind of setup video. There's a spot for scheduled events. There's 2 blank spots here. I went ahead and divided it in half so I could maybe use one side if I wanted to track expenses for my YouTube channel and stuff kind of as they came up. I could use this to meal plan. I left it blank because I can use this for a variety of things, and then there's a spot for daily notes. Between these 2 pages, that should be enough room for me. That's why I went to the bullet journal, was because it wasn't quite enough room just to have 1 page per day necessarily, but I do like the fact that I can go through and forward plan. So we look ahead here, and again, horrible trimming job, but it's just for my personal use. So on the 20th, I know I have a hair appointment, so I can go ahead and put that in, and then I don't have to think about writing it in at the beginning of the week. So this allows me to forward plan for the next month and bring things forward. I did actually do it kind of by week. So I do have September 1st in here because for me, week starts on a Monday. So this September 1st is a Sunday. And then I will do basically a book per month. And that should kind of be enough. And then if I need to do any forward planning outside of this, obviously I have my monthly calendar to put stuff on. So this is what I'm moving to. So far, so good. And obviously things will probably change a little bit as I use it over the next few weeks or month, and I just figure out how I enjoy it, what I like, and what I maybe want to change. So that is what I'm doing as far as my daily plans go. So the other thing I promised I would show you is the Petite Planner from Erin Condren. So this is what I'm using right now as kind of my self-care journal. And so the first section here, this is their actual self-care journal. Let me find kind of a blank week. So each week they have these pages. So there's kind of like a weekly overview sort of page here. And then there are 7 pages, so you have 1 page per day. And then there's a spot for tracking, and there's a spot for reflecting on the week, and then it starts over again. So that's the first book that's in here. The second one is the gratitude journal, and essentially each day they have a prompt. So you just fill in the date that this is for, and then you write whatever matches. The next thing I have in here is a wellness log, which I'll probably go back and kind of fill this out and start with it, but right now, since I'm on semi-sabbatical, I'm not going to be tracking a lot of this stuff right now. I will probably do it once I start in September. And then finally, I have a travel journal back here in the back, which I know I have those, my own printable travel inserts, but I'm thinking that when I'm traveling back to see Gary that I might actually start using this, or I may just use it for more vacations, but I went ahead and put it in here just so I kind of have it all in the same place. Now, I know people have mentioned that when you get these books, the strings are really loose. Ends used to be about this long, and as you can see, they're quite a bit longer now. I definitely had to tighten everything up to kind of keep it from flopping around. But this isn't exactly the tightest book by default, that's for sure. So that's kind of what my planners look like right now. I'm trying to keep everything all in one place, just to minimize kind of what I'm carrying and all of that. Everyday carry, self-care journal, and then I'll just tuck these back in here. I need to find a spot for this and put it on a string. But I'm gonna have to take something out because there's not any room in there right now. Because the nice thing about this, it's a week size, Hobonichi weeks, so I could just tuck it in the front. So that's what I had been doing. I will figure that out later. Anyway, I hope that was helpful so you could kind of see what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, and where I'm going with stuff. So you'll probably see, hopefully, that Franklin Covey Traveler's Notebook mashup insert a little bit more over the coming months as I play with it, and you'll get to see some changes probably as I decide how I want to use it and what I want to use it for. Some of the things that are not included in there that are usually in the inserts are like notes pages for the month and that sort of thing, so I need to figure out how I want to handle that. Since I am doing the book by month, probably should figure out if I want to do kind of a monthly page along with it, or how I want to handle that. Or maybe what I'll just do, because when I printed this book, it's caught, I did have some extra pages here in the back. So maybe what I'll do is turn one of these into a notes page or something. I don't know, we'll figure that out as we go. Anyway, hope that was helpful, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. And I thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye!